You are listening to the Inverted Creative Podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Jen.
Jen, my favorite co-host.
Heck yeah, we have a girls only episode.
So Brian is not able to join us today, but we are having a Who Run the World girls kind of day today. We have a guest coming on later.
Yep, we have the wonderful Katelyn of why did I just blank on the name?
Unleashed Access.
Unleashed Access, one of my favorite service dog handlers. We're excited.
We are. It's weird not having Brian here. I miss him.
I know. It already feels off without our third person.
And also that means you were never late for recording because he's technically not joined us yet.
Yeah, that's very true. It also means that we don't have a trivia answer for you guys.
No, we do, because I remember what the question was, because it dealt with me.
Oh, never mind, I lied. We have a trivia answer.
Yeah, we'll go right into trivia. Brian had posed a question to see who was listening to the episode and was asking, what is my intended 700 milestone coaster? Because we talked about our summer trip plans, and I mentioned all the crazy things that we're doing. My flight leaves in 23 days, which is absurd. But if you were paying attention, my 700 is planning to be, hopefully, Fireball at Adventureland in New York City, or just outside of New York City. I don't really know where it is. And I know a few people answered, so shout out to Alex, Tim, and Evan. I know you guys were listening. Thank you very much. If you don't know me, I have a thing for fire. Not like me personally setting things on fire, but if you ever watched the movie Sky High, from 2005, I'm obsessed with War and Peace and pyrokinetics, and I even wrote a whole book on it. So I think it's very fitting if I have a milestone on a coaster called Fireball.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see if that happens. There's another, I have to go through 5 countries first and see what all I get there to see if it's actually going to line up to have that as my milestone. So I will keep you all posted.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear about it.
Oh God, that's going to be the world's longest Inverted Creative Podcast episode when me and Bryant talk about our trips.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, to be able to finally talk about Europa Park and Fantasialand with Bryant though. I feel like that should have its own episode.
No, legitimately, that's something I want to do in the future is have straight park episodes about looking at the entire creative side of Europa Park. And I guess maybe we need to have Joey on for that one whenever we do that.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably a good call.
There's a lot of parks I think that would work well for that.
Yeah. And Bryant can finally join in them.
Yay! He doesn't have to put his fingers in his ears and go la 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 la.
Heck yeah!
So we both have some trip recaps to do real quick. I'm going to try to keep this short because I know we have an interview today. And also, I'm just really hungry and I want dinner soon.
Yeah, so we're just going to get into quick intro, quick recaps, and then on to our interview. So you first.
So, and I don't remember when we last recorded, but I did a silly little Kings Island visit. For people who don't know, I also have a publishing company on the side. And I literally, the whole point of me going up to Kings Island with my friend John Mike was to take a couple books with me and take cute pictures of my books in like related areas around the park. And that was like our entire time there. So like we have a book called like The Beast of Luffy Island. So I was literally awkwardly sitting in the middle of the pathway where like the paw prints, I guess they're paw prints. I don't know. Beast prints, whatever they are. I was awkwardly sitting in the walkway getting pictures of a book with that. We have a book about like possessed German carousel horses or something like that called Dream Thieves. And so I did some stuff on the carousel for that and then rode the carousel. And I take a really weird selfie with one of the horses. Stuff like that. Just, it was literally a day to just chill. Oh, and we did the antique cars. That was very entertaining.
Oh.
I had not done the ones at Kings Island, but my driver was a little demented.
Well,
And by that, I mean very entertaining, and I'm sure I sent you snaps of that. No, maybe I didn't, but I need to. So that was our entire little Kings Island visit. Just something fun, silly at the home park. And then this past weekend, I'm still very tired from this trip. We went over to Virginia for the Buzz Bars. Crap, what was all? I forget the name of the event. Virginia is for Stumbles the
I think
Revenge.
Virginia is for Stumbles
Stumbles
Revenge.
Revenge, something like that.
Oh,
I don't know, but we did King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg. It was a really fun event because I have spent so much time at those parks already that I didn't need to sit and cred run the entire time, and I was just able to chill a lot more. Um, we had ERT on Rapterra, so I got a few rides on that. Um, Enjoyed that ride. I think I like it better than Thunderbird.
okay.
Just there's just more to it, and
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a rolling launch. And the theming was fun, like with the whole like dead volcano in the middle of it, paying
Yeah.
homage to volcano. Um, Grizzly is running really, really well. I was standing on my rides, which is crazy. Um, I can't even remember what I rode. I rode Dominator.
Did you ride I-305?
Oh yeah, totally. It was totally open for us.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I rode Twisted Timbers. I got the Great Pumpkin Coaster since adults can ride that now.
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
heard, like, everyone getting excited for Great Pumpkin
oh yeah, we
Coaster.
had like a whole groups riding it. It was fun. Um, and we did a tailgate out in like the picnic pavilion kind of area of the parking lot where all of us backed up our cars and just chilled and had a good time. And I might have been out there for 4 hours. It was
That's
great. It was a lot of fun. And then Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. We ended the night on Pantheon ERT. That was a lot of fun. Like a whole hour of it. I just kept marathoning, even though I said my body was tired and I needed to stop. But then there was nobody in our row, so we just kept riding.
of course. I'm
Um,
really jealous you guys had nighttime ERT on that.
yeah,
The
it was
events
really cool.
Yeah, the events I went on in the past were morning, and that thing's not sped up enough in the
Yeah.
morning.
God, that thing
Significantly
has
different.
insane airtime. So good.
Yeah.
Um, I guess my big thing for Busch Williamsburg was I did the Burgermeister's Hideaway, the speakeasy experience that they have there. Highly recommend it. So much fun. It was hilarious. We had like 10 of our group in there.
Yeah.
Popcorn was delicious. Cocktails, 2 of the 3 were delicious.
Oh, which one didn't you like?
There was a whiskey sour one. I don't
Okay.
particularly like whiskey sours, so I would just keep filling Brambo's drink when he wasn't paying attention. If he was watching something else, I'd just pour a little of mine in his, and he'd be like, "Where the hell did that come from?" Um, and they gave the rest to John Mike. But it was a lot of fun. And then did the sampler pass for Food and Wine Festival and split that with a few people, and that was really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I hear that their food and wine festival is really good. I love Tampa's, so
I'm still thinking about some like beef tacos from the Mexico pavilion
Mhm.
station, whatever it is. Um, Still thinking about that. It was good.
Yeah.
I didn't really ride a lot that day. I did Alpengeist, did Loch Ness.
That's fine. I feel like that park, like, that's one of the really beautiful things about that park. Like, you can have a fantastic day there without riding a single thing.
Yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
And then we went up to Funland in Fredericksburg on the way home, and so I got another +1 there.
Oh, well, of course, you gotta get your +1.
Oh, Big Bad Wolf. There's a new coaster there.
Oh, yeah.
I never got to ride the original, but this one, it was very cute. It is very far back from everything, so it takes a little while to get to it. I'm not a fan of the like family B&M restraints. They're so
Mm,
narrow and just dig into your thighs.
yeah.
But aside from that, it was a really cute ride. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't expect much going into that one.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good fit for families. Pays good homage to the original. As far as I know, I never read the original, but
Yeah.
I chickened out and I regret it because that was before I liked coasters.
Oh, no, that's a hard
It
loss.
was in when I was what 5th grade or so, and my friends tried to get me to ride it, and I would not, and I regret it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Oh well, what can you do?
I wonder if it was there. I went there in high school. I didn't really ride much at all, but I wonder if it was there when I went. I didn't ride it, but I'll have to look it up and see. I'm intrigued.
But yeah, that was my weekend, and then well, by the time this episode drops, I will have been to Epic Universe, so woohoo!
That's very fun.
I'm excited, but I
Yeah,
won't be able to talk much about it on the podcast.
probably not. I'm not gonna lie, I've almost booked for this weekend.
Oh, you should
As
have.
much as I said that I was never gonna go, but only because one of my closest friends is going, and she, like, texted me, and she's like, "I'm going this weekend, and also so is our other, like, bestie, so just extending an invite."
So, like, everyone you know is gonna be there this weekend.
Yeah, but then I was
Either
like, I could not justify I can't justify the cost of that park when I have all of those annual passes down there.
yeah.
It's like I can't do it. It's
I'm just hoping it'll be slow because, like, preview times have seemed relatively chill, and
yeah.
also most everyone else I know is gonna be at Hollywood Nights this weekend.
Yeah, so I think it'll be kind of slow on that front, which will
I
be
hope so.
nice.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But I will report back vaguely next episode.
Yeah.
Well, I know you had a couple small trips
Yeah, I
locally.
just had little local things. Did I talk about Hershey last episode?
I don't think so. We recorded a while back, I
Did
think.
I even talk about Yeah, but I talked about Paris, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I went to Hershey Park, I don't know. 2 I'm doing great. Like, maybe 2-ish weeks
Fine.
ago, I pretty much landed from Europe, and the next day made my way over to Hershey. I had some friends from the Netherlands, who were visiting, so I went to go hang out with them for a little bit and experience the park with them for the first time. I don't get to experience the park for the first time with too many people, so that was pretty fun. The park was absolutely slammed. It was an awful day. This kid ended up riding Fahrenheit with me, and he was like, "I just ditched my friends because there were 3 of us, and it was taking forever." He said, "I've waited over 2 hours in this line."
Jeez.
It's like, "Oh?"
Fahrenheit ain't worth that.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my goodness." So, yeah, so we did that. I got to my favorite part, though. We got to ride, of course, all of the coasters, and I got to experience that and everything. They got to experience fried Reese's.
Interesting. I haven't even experienced that.
Oh my gosh. Fried Reese's are the most incredible thing you could ever experience in your life. The most incredible thing. Like, it would be before I had to go gluten free, I would literally go into that park and get fried Reese's almost immediately.
I'll
They're
have to
incredible.
I'll have to remember that next time I go to Hershey, whenever that may be. It's not in the
Yes,
plans.
you have to do it because they're so good. And I got to introduce them to fried Reese's, which might have been my highlight. Um, But yeah, other than that, not really a productive day. It was super busy, so we rode like everything once. And then I left. Nothing crazy. That's nothing crazy. Um, then this past weekend I brought myself over to Dorney Park. It was my first Dorney Park visit of the season. Um, I went with the intention of, like, taking a couple videos, making a couple things. I have my film camera. I wanted to take some pictures on my film camera, and eating because I wanted to make a couple food videos. I unfortunately had a very not good food day at Dorney Park. Um, I always my first spot. Dining plan people know your first your first stop when you go into a theme park when you have a Cedar Fair dining plan or I guess Six Flags dining plan is always food, so you can make sure you get a second food.
You gotta
Like
maximize it.
exactly, you gotta maximize it. So I walked in and I don't know how many of you guys have heard me talk about this, but when it comes to Dorney Park, Tidal Wave Cafe is the place to go. Their food is incredible. All about Tidal Wave Cafe. So I went to Tidal Wave Cafe immediately, and it's early enough in the season that they did not have any allergen sheets. Um, and when I asked for it and they couldn't find it, they went to talk to the chef, and the chef told them that the mac and cheese and the french fries and the broccoli were gluten-free. The broccoli was steamed, so that's I'll give them that. The french fries were fried with, like, funnel cake shrimp and chicken tenders, so they were not gluten-free. And then I said, "Oh, do you use gluten-free pasta?" And she just looked at me and paused, and she was like, "No, but that's what the chef said."
Jeez.
And I was like, "You can't tell people that." And she was just like, "I'm so sorry. That's what the chef said." She was like, "If you want my opinion, I don't think you should eat here."
Wow. I mean,
And
at
I was
least
like, "Well,
she was
thank you for
honest.
being honest." So I left. So no Tidal Wave Cafe. And then the chicken tender place, which has the gluten-free chicken tenders, was so completely backed up it was impossible to get. So I ended with a gluten-free pizza. It's not a great one. My
Yeah.
food was not doing well at Dorney Park. It's not no gluten-free pizza is really that good. Like, let's be honest. Especially not when you're getting it at the theme park. The cheese was really good and the sauce was pretty good, but like the crust is not good.
Yeah.
Not good. Um I will say though that they will give you this giant personal pan pizza on the dining meal, which is it's at least double the size of the regular serving. So
That's
that
good.
part's good. But yeah, so I had a really bad food day at Dorney Park. Um, but on good notes, they opened a new bar called 21 and Colder in Wildwater Kingdom. The bar itself, very clean, but not really anything special. Um, looks wise. Selection wise, I was so impressed. They had a good selection, like so they obviously have, like, your Cedar Fair, like, frozen margaritas, everything like
Yeah,
that,
the usual
sugar
fare.
on top, yeah. But then they had the best selection I've seen in a theme park fridge. Like, lemonade drinks, domestic beers, imported beers. They have Polliner. I think that's how you say it, Polliner.
Oh,
Not it's a, Weiss beer that's only brewed in Germany. It's imported in from Germany by the same company. So, not only did they have their Weiss beer, they also had their Radler. So, I was super blown away by that. Seltzers, everything you could think in this fridge. It was incredible. I almost cried of joy when I saw the Polliner in there. Like, so incredible. Um, yeah, and then I rode Demon Drop and I rode Talon, and that's it.
how is Talon running?
Talon was running fantastic. It was my first Talon ride of the season, so that was fun. My first Demon Drop ride of the season. But yeah, literally rode both of them once, took some pictures and stuff like that, and then just headed out. But Talon, incredible as always. We
As I'm,
love her.
as I'm sure it always is.
Yeah, it's always so good. But yeah, it was a really chill day at Dorney. I just kind of like did my own thing and took pictures and stuff.
Those are some of the best days.
Yeah, I did take a really cool picture of the Enterprise. I'm really excited to post it. It's like I literally was like in bushes to get this picture to get the flowers all angled the way I wanted them, and I like leaned on a tree by accident and got sap all over my arm and my leg and my hand. Like the tree was just covered in sap. I was like, but this picture better turn out. I I liked the picture so much that when I finished the roll of film I was using and pulled out the roll of film I really wanted it on, I went back.
Just
I was like,
gotta,
I'm just gonna retake this.
gotta do it for the gram.
So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm very it yeah. Yeah, so that was my day.
Fun.
Yeah.
My brain just
So
died. Um,
that's fine.
so I think it's about time to welcome our guest on. Do you want to give a little kind of backstory to?
Yeah. So as we have shared, we're kicking off this accessibility little series here. And one of our guests that we're gonna showcase is Katelyn. Katelyn is a service dog animal. A service dog? Katelyn is a service dog animal. Katelyn is a service dog handler. She has been for a few years now. She's working with her second dog now, and attends parks frequently. She owns Unleashed Access, which focuses on accessibility and creativity in the space. She works with parks, escape rooms. She does a whole variety of themed entertainment and works with them. So me and Caitlin also have some background in the past as well. We met because we at the time were both service dog handlers who both really enjoyed theme parks. Our dogs, her previous dog and Ahsoka, who is now no longer working in service work, um, worked together a couple of times. They were really good friends, so we will touch base on some of those experiences a little bit. Um, but yeah, so that's the interview.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and bring Caitlin on. I think.
All right.
Hi, Caitlin. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to be on here.
Thank you for joining us. I know we've been having some scheduling issues to get this going, but I'm glad that we finally got you.
Me too. I've been a busy girl.
Haven't
About
we
to
all?
graduate. Yep, that's for sure. Never no there's never any slow moments, I feel like.
Yeah,
But
I get that for sure.
we're all set.
Yes.
Woo!
So here we are with interview. We have interview in episode number 1 of a little accessibility series that we have going. We're really excited for this.
We
Me too.
are.
I'm excited to hear the rest of the episodes as well. But I'm excited to be here too because I'm obviously very passionate about this topic.
For sure. So definitely for this accessibility series, we want to give our listeners a chance to kind of better understand accessibility at theme parks, how a lot of that process works, and especially today, service animals and kind of their role in theme parks and how we can, do things creatively at parks to help.
Accommodate them.
Yeah, there we go. That's the word I was trying to find. Thank you. So,
Right.
Caitlin, if you want to start and kind of tell us about your own coaster enthusiast journey and how you were inspired to start Unleashed Access and a little bit about that.
Sure. So with my coaster journey, I actually used to be terrified of roller coasters. I would not ride them. But then what is now my number 0 coaster, I rode Verbolten on my birthday like 6-7 years ago. And then I was hooked after that. Still one of my favorites, but I used to be terrified. And now I, travel and do parks and, even work on designing some roller coasters and stuff like that. Super duper fun. Inspiration wise, I have a pretty funny story for this one. So I've been handling a service dog for about 8 years now. I'm on my second. I had one named Baymax that I think Jen has met, but Allison has not. But he was a delight. But when I had him, I called him a backpack dog because he was so calm and very well trained. A lot of these parks, what I'll get into more, is they only have the rider swap option for accommodations, which means you can't ride with the person that you're with. And so I got desperate enough at one point that I gave Baymax to a group of like 13-year-old girls because they loved him so much, because I was so desperate to ride with my fiance that I was like, they loved him, and I was like, they're not going anywhere with him. Really bad idea. Real bad idea. Not the smartest thing I've ever done in my life. However, that kind of spurred my idea into making something that was able to help remedy that problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So anyone tell us about Unleashed Access and kind of what the goal of that is and kind of where you're at in that process?
Yeah, for sure. So Unleashed Access is my LLC. So it's a consulting business on better integrating service animals in any sort of themed entertainment, mostly theme parks, but I have things written down for mini golf, for character interactions, all sorts of stuff, but mainly theme parks because it's a little bit more applicable there. So the things that I kind of work on are accommodation methods. So again, usually I advocate the most for crates, since they're less expensive and don't take a whole lot of staff money to do. So that's one thing that I do. And then I help facilities both when they're making the facility and also after, and retrofitting those things on how to better accommodate service animals and their handlers to make everything a little bit more smooth. Because right now, the really only options are rider swap. It's most parks only do rider swap, which separates people from the party. And that's never fun when usually parks advertise that, you know, you're there to make memories with your friends and family, and it could be argued that's a fundamental alteration of the experience, if you have to separate from your party in order to ride things. So, and I know my experience, and a lot of the other people that have service dogs have, you know, had to split up with their group. It's not fun. And so the goal would be, you know, to help places operationally, because it can, having service dogs and accommodating them can absolutely be a it's a difficult thing legally and liability wise, and so I am actually working with a lawyer that does ADA accessibility stuff and is very intimately familiar with service animals. I'm kind of verifying some things with him, since it's such a legal gray area, but I'm pretty well versed, and if I, you know, need backup or anything, he's always there. So there's lots of legal liability stuff. So I'm kind of there to help navigate that kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. I feel like that makes sense. You have to have a good balance there. Yeah,
for sure.
I know Katelyn mentioned Verbolten. Before we get any further, I also like to point out that Baymax was the first dog in the show building of Verbolten.
He was the first. He was the first. He didn't care that much. But this is one thing that's pretty relevant. So I actually, during that tour, we weren't sure what to do with him. So going into that show building, no spoilers, but going walk up to the drop track, the grate was really like wide, and Baymax's feet are small. Baymax is not a big dog. And so he couldn't go up there. And so the solution ended up being the really, really sweet tour guide lady holding him for me while I walked up there. So there's little things like that, like trained staff. And again, it's a little bit of a legal, you know, slippery slope. However, little things like that are always appreciated, because I really what's my favorite, and I wanted to walk up there, and she was like, "Do you want me to hold him?" And it ended up working perfectly. So it's just little things like that that are like, you know, obviously dogs should never be up there, but you know, to be able to be on a tour for a guest with a service animal, there's got to be some sort of workaround.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So moving into a little bit more of your experience, I know you mentioned you've been a service dog handler for a pretty long time, coaster enthusiast for a little while now. What are some of the biggest accessibility issues you've seen in theme parks, and what are some of the creative ways that you've thought of to solve?
So this isn't necessarily service dog applicable, but as like a little side thing, I really wish that there were some restraint accommodations that were, especially for people who are amputees or paraplegic. There are some things out there, but not every park has them. So I wish that was a little bit better. But service dog wise, some accessibility things could be potty spots. As funny as that sounds, potty spots. I am a big advocate for just any grass that is available, because having potty spots, actually, it takes up space, for these parks. It takes up footprint. And a lot of parks actually judge how much money they make, like, per square foot in certain areas. And so by taking that, you're taking up space, and that's money. So by having, one or two is fine, but once you start to have a really big park, you're going to have more. So I'm a big fan of people just being able to, let the dog just pee on a bush. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to walk all the way back to the park. And especially if people have mobility problems, and the dogs are tired, everyone's tired, as you are with a theme park. But just being able to just, let the dog, pee on a bush, rather than having to, well, it sucks because it does get enforced. It does get enforced. I've heard. It has not happened to me. However, if the potty spot's a 20-minute walk away and somebody has like chronic pain and is not, that's a whole 20 minutes that they are, going somewhere that they could just be using a piece of grass.
Yeah.
And obviously, we don't want that on speakers or any sort of electrical equipment. However, I think allowing that is a decent accommodation. Sorry, I'm checking back to make sure I'm on track. Another thing is, so there's a really hard balance between allowing dogs, and I believe, Jen, you had an experience like this where some service dogs do bark to like alert or task in one way or another. And there's nothing wrong, I think, with security kind of looking and making sure nothing is going on. However, again, it all comes down to employee training. You shouldn't be kicking out a dog for barking once or twice, especially if it's a task. Legally, they have to allow that. But there's a really hard balance between, dogs aren't robots and having a standard. Now, it depends on the handler opinions on this. However, it is a slippery slope in theme parks because most of it is outside. It's a very interesting line to dance on. But I think having better trained security and employees in general, and having them to be able to be allowed to kick out the service dogs that are not behaving appropriately, because there is absolutely room for that. I have had dogs scream bark at poor Baymax, just absolutely lose it. And I would be like, because normally I'm usually very, very forgiving when it comes to service animals, and usually the law is as well. If a dog barks once or twice and it's corrected, I don't mind, especially at a theme park, because there is legally, because it is both outside in a novel environment, it gives them a little bit of leeway. And I agree with that, because the dog is being quote unquote provoked, whether that's by like a character or I've had kids throw popcorn at Baymax. So there's lots of novel things happening. Yeah. So lots of novel things happening. So I think in employee training on the balance between what is and is not a fake service dog should be balanced better, especially at the front gate. The two questions, Jen, you know them, but Allison, if you aren't aware, the two questions that businesses are allowed to ask are, is that a service animal, and what task does it provide? Those are the two questions they can ask. And emotional support is not a task. So if they say that, the dog's not permitted to enter. Almost pretty much every handler should know what their dog's tasks are. That's the whole point of having one. And they should be able to answer those questions, no problem. And in fact, I actually really like when people ask the two questions, because that makes me feel better going in places, that they're sort of monitoring the animals that are coming in and out. So, but yeah, better employee training. That kind of completely sidetracked on that question, but I hope that answers.
No, I agree. I always remember I had one situation going into a park where another dog was in a bag going in, and I remember listening to them and them telling, they were like, yeah, they're trained in emotional support, and they were like, okay, let yourself in, and I was like, that emotional support is not a
It's not
task.
a
Don't let them
task.
in,
Right.
and they let them in still.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had to educate one of the Cedar Point security people because there was a dog also in a bag. They're always in bags. They're always in bags. Almost half the time they're in bags. They, again, scream barking. Which again, I'm usually very, very forgiving. Correct it and move on. They're dogs. I It happens. I've had a dog at Dollywood like absolutely lose it at Baymax, but you know, um, the handler corrected it. It was just a lot of barking, and we separated ways, and we moved on. It doesn't. I'm not going to be upset over that. However, if you're just shoving your dog back in the bag, absolutely not. Because legally, um, as long as the behavior is corrected and it's not aggressive, you're good. And personally, again, I don't care. It happens, especially if the dog's a puppy. It happens. Correct it, move on. But yeah, no. Yeah. Anyway, again, better trained employees is really a lot of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Um, so you talking about like location, like P spot locations or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and like distances in parks. Like,
Yeah.
speaking of Verbolten, I was just at Busch Gardens Williamsburg this last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and even as a able-bodied person with no animal, that park is huge, and
Mm-hmm.
and like those animals have to get tired out just as quickly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Baymax is a. I have never seen Baymax sleep so much in a crate than at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. It's so many hills. But yeah, no, consideration for the animal is absolutely something that needs to be considered, because they're taking at least twice the steps that we are. Um, and it's exhausting. So yeah, no, that park is a lot. But I do really like how they handle service animals at the Busch and the SeaWorld parks.
Yeah.
Big fan of them.
It's
Big
so
fan.
funny that with all of the parks that I've been to, I feel like Busch and SeaWorld are continuously the most consistent, which for
I
everything
agree.
else, it's like, for everything else, there's not like a ton stand out, but that is one thing, like as a handler, I feel like super stand out that they do.
Yeah, the only thing that I have is we have a hard time at Tampa, Tampa's park, and this is more of a again an operational thing um, that I think that they can improve on for their own poor staff. So what they have is they have two crates in the entire park, one for one section and one for the other, which means they attach wheels to the crates. And if you want to ride something, an employee has to push it from all the other ways to the side of the other part of the park. And that can take, throughout the day, that can be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours worth of pay for somebody, for just one employee. And if you add that all up, crates aren't that expensive. So operationally, it would just, and monetarily, it'd just be better for them to do that. Because at that point, you're taking a ride operator away
Yeah.
from a ride, and that slows it down for everyone else. So that one is hard. They're very nice about it, though. They're very nice. However, I feel bad them pushing around this giant crate everywhere and taking up their time when they could be doing something better. Um,
Yeah.
so definitely a crate per ride, or at least every other ride would be very nice, at least for the employees' sake. Oh man,
This does bring up though, and Allison, I don't know if you ever heard this story. One of my all-time favorite Ahsoka working in a park stories. Bryant and Megan were with me, and we went to Busch Gardens Tampa, and I showed up to Cobra's Curse. And anyone listening who does not know my dog, she's a corgi. And if you know corgis, like they look really small when you look at them. But when you pick them up, they're 30-pound dogs. Like they're pretty big dogs. And they sent a ride out. It took over half an hour for them to bring a crate. They
yep,
brought a
every
cat
time.
cage.
Oh, geez.
They brought a cat carrier. And I looked at the guy and I was like, I don't think she's going to get into that. And he was like, well, I could bring you another one, but it's like really big and it's going to take me a while to get it over here. And I was like, I can try. And I was like, but even if I can get her into this, I can't promise she'll be good. Like,
Yeah.
she's trained to be in a giant crate. She went into it and she looked like she was busting out of a can of biscuits. He was like busting out of the holes in this crate, and she stayed in it. Like, I was like, I'm really proud of you for like getting into this cat crate and not fighting anything. But I still like, she looked at me like, you cannot be serious. I was
Right.
like, I am. Please get inside.
I have noticed the same thing. Russell's trainer has a Bernedoodle. She's now retired, but she has a Bernedoodle, and those dogs are big, and she's had the same problem. So that's kind of why I always advocate for not only just crates, but make them so the dog can fit. I know there's a Great Dane that frequents Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and she can't even use the crates. Um, um, yeah. Sometimes the crates are just too small. I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, no, the crates can be difficult size-wise because they do take up space. However, in the long run, it does allow guests with service animals. And normally, usually the chances of a dog being bigger is normal, especially if the dog's like a mobility dog or whatever.
I remember being shocked because in all the places that I brought Ahsoka that had crates or anything, I've never once been given a small crate. So I never even taught her how to get into one, how to chill in one. I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go. I was expecting one for like a lab.
Right. Usually that's about the size. I actually haven't seen that. That's really funny. I would love to see that. Hopefully they got rid of that crate. They're like, is this for the animal actors? Like, where did you find this? I don't know why they
said that they have 2 size crates for every area, small and a large, and they bring the one based on eyeing up the dog.
Okay.
So it makes sense if they have to carry it attraction to attraction, and they thought my dog was smaller than she was. Yeah. But I was like, she's not that small.
He eyed her up wrong.
Eyed her up wrong, brother.
She big girl. I love Ahsoka.
It was just like, I will never forget that experience because she looked at me like, no, this is not serious. And then when I oh my god, I wish I had pictures. When I say she was busting out like a can of biscuits, she literally, every hole in that crate had fur busting out of it.
The poor thing, though.
I know. If it was more than like, they were literally like in the crate, got me right on the vehicle. She wasn't in there for more than 2 minutes, or else I would never have allowed that to happen.
Right.
But she wasn't in there for more than 2 minutes. She was fine. She got out and she was happy as a clam. She got ice cream.
Yippee!
It's like my favorite. But yeah, it's like one of my favorite Busch Garden stories like ever.
At least we have fun stories every once in a while that come out of these things.
Yeah.
It's entertaining for sure. Sucks in the moment, especially when they take half an hour or an hour and a half to bring the crate out, because that does happen to me as well. At Tampa, every time we'll even give them a heads up, and we'll be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go take a break for an hour. We're gonna come back and ride this ride," and they'll be like, "Oh, we forgot," and I'll be like, "Man, Then my return time has passed, and it's a whole ordeal. So it sucks, but you know what? It is what it is. But that's what I'm here for. Is I would like to help parks and other facilities work on that kind of thing. So these things don't happen. We don't have biscuit dogs popping out of crates and such.
And like, you get the stories out of it, but also it's a good opportunity to help teach parks better ways to handle things like this.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Like, that's why we have warning labels on everything, is because somebody has done something to use it incorrectly, and then we can correct it in the future so it never has to happen again.
Right. Speaking of warning labels, this is one of the things that I wanted to touch on. So some rides are for service animals, specifically for Disney and Universal. Six Flags parks usually only allow like the little drive cars, the little gasoline, like the old antique cars, and like the carousel, and sometimes rarely, but sometimes they let them ride the Ferris wheel. And also Boo Blasters for some reason. Boo Blasters is also rideable. However, at some of the bigger parks, usually the rule is If it doesn't have a height requirement, the dog can ride. However, there are some rides that are not like that. Like, believe it or not, both of you have ridden ET, right? So you know how the platform is?
I
Yeah.
actually have never ridden AT, but
So
that's neither here nor there.
so for context, you're kind of on the bicycles, the ride vehicles like you're sitting on, they're on like a platform. So it's flat, it's not enclosed. Technically, service animals are allowed to ride on that. And it's tilting, it's moving, there's not closed in, you're hovering from the ceiling. So you've got all these things happening, you've got elevation changes, you've got it rotating on an axis, like you've got all sorts of stuff. And dogs are allowed on that. Personally, in my personal opinion, they shouldn't be. It's a safety hazard. And also, so one of the things that I consider and that I'm really interested in when it comes to consulting is figuring out whether or not dogs can ride. So some of the things that I look at are what kind of restraint system they use, because obviously your dog can't, ride on a B&M invert. For safety reasons, it's not built for that.
Wait, you're
And
saying
also,
that the dog can't ride on Talon at Thorny Park?
unfortunately, no, they're too short.
Oh,
That's what I always tell
God.
people. The dog's too short. So they can't ride on those things, obviously. But when it comes to dark rides, we kind of look at the restraint and the height requirement, and whether or not it would be safe for the dog to task. So the thing that I look at is, if the dog loses a point of contact, because some dogs task. If the dog was some sort of medical alert dog, those dogs are usually trained to either paw, or some dogs boop with their nose, but it's very, very common to lift a paw and tap somebody with their paw. And the question is, would that dog be sacrificing any sort of safety by losing that point of contact? So that's something I look at, as well as the motion on the ride, how many degrees it's moving, and whether or not it's enclosed. Because if it moves a little bit more, you can probably get away with them being able to ride it if it's enclosed. If it moves a little bit, if it's enclosed, maybe a little bit more than it would be if it was open, if that makes sense. Another thing is the lack of having crates, or the option to have a crate, can put parks in a situation that is a safety problem for the handler, it's a safety problem for the dog. So let's say, I don't want to name anything specific, but let's say there's a dark ride that isn't enclosed and has openings, but the dog technically can ride. Now, not every service dog is going to want to ride that, especially because the environment is so distracting. Your dog probably won't be able to task anyway. Some dogs do. Some dogs are really good at it, but the majority of dogs are not going to be able to task. Sorry, it's a motorcycle outside. But most dogs are not going to be able to task, nor enjoy it. Some dogs are stressed, and I don't expect any dog ever to, enjoy that kind of thing. They don't have context. That's another thing I'll get back to with haunts, because I think those are also a very important thing to cover with service animals. But anyway, so let's say hypothetically, the only option is to ride or swap, or have the dog ride. And you don't want to separate from your friend. You don't want to separate from your partner. You don't want to separate from your family. So what can happen is, without knowing what's involved in the ride, the handler's like, oh, my dog can go on this. They get on the ride. It's very loud. There's lots of stuff going on. The dog freaks out and jumps out of the ride vehicle. It happens more often than you think. I've heard some statistics that I'm not allowed to share. It happens more often than you think. And that's horrible. It's my belief that service dog handlers shouldn't have to look up POVs for videos and look at ride vehicles in order to guarantee the safety of their dog. That should be the park's responsibility, hands down. You shouldn't have to spoil things for yourself, just to make sure your dog, but that's also comes back to crates. If you have that option, the handler's not going to feel pressured to put their dog in a situation that could compromise their safety, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a safety thing, as well as a comfort thing. And operationally, it's just, sometimes it's easier to have crates, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry, I feel like I'm yapping too much.
No, you're here to yap. That's literally your requirement. It's literally what you're here for.
I will continue to yap.
Yeah,
I hope
no.
that answers the question. I completely went off track.
Oh yeah, I think we answered the question like a little while ago at this point.
My bad.
No, we always ask questions and wherever the conversation takes us. We do have another one though. We're talking about situations that you look into,
Sure.
possible situations we can run into.
Mhm.
What are some of the most creative solutions that you've seen park implement to these issues?
The best one I can think of is probably trained staff, in the sense that they, like when I did the Verbolten thing, the staff member was okay with holding him. So if there's no other workaround or crates for certain experiences, I'm a big fan of trained staff. And now it's not a theme park. However, I was doing an escape room that had a fake hydraulic um, floor that was supposed to be a fake elevator. So I was advised to not have him on, have Baymax. I had Baymax at the time, have him on it. And the second I saw it, I was like, yeah, absolutely not. So the game master, it was a thing that those game masters would be allowed to hold the dog, and they were trained to hold the dog. So it's one of those things where if you don't have a crate and it just happens, the game master is there anyway. Now that can be a liability, but that's neither here nor there if your dog is trained. It can be up to the discretion of the handler. Creatively, I have seen a few things on like the ride maps that kind of specify what exactly is happening on the ride, which I think is good both for sensory people have sensory issues, but also allows you to know if your dog is able to ride it, what they're getting into. I'm always a big advocate for those. I love when they you have pamphlets that don't necessarily spoil the ride, but tells you if it has a drop in it.
Yeah.
Is there flashing lights in here? Like, is there lots of smells or fog? I'm a big fan of those. I hope that answers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I used to like those too, being able to see on a ride map
They're super cool.
exactly what was gonna happen. Disney's really good about that. They'll have like a little drop.
Yeah, I've seen, I don't know if you've seen, but at Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, they actually have 3D ride models for people, whoever needs them. Usually they're intended for people that are visually impaired. So they have ride models so they can feel exactly what like the layout is like and feel like what's going on in there.
Oh, that's cool.
Or if somebody just is so anxious, or if somebody is, autistic, they, know what's coming, and it gives them a better grasp of what's going on, and gives them a little bit of a heads up, but not even just on paper, but you get to show them in 3D form, and they can touch it. You can show them that. And they do that for characters with costumes as well. And the ride vehicle itself, they'll have little models. Those are super creative. I'm a big fan of those. I wish that was implemented more here.
Yeah, that's incredible. I had no idea that
Yeah,
was an option.
they're super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, what a creative idea. I love that.
I know I've been watching Coaster Studios, their Coasting Through Asia series, and how they keep pointing out a lot of the rides have like signs out front that say exactly how this ride operates too.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of feels right along the same lines, trying to give people an idea of
Right.
what to actually expect on a ride and what animals can expect on it.
For sure. Yeah. I just am a big believer that, people shouldn't have to spoil the ride to make sure that they can safely enjoy it, especially with service dogs. You need to be able to make that decision, especially with rides like E.T. and The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. That is also a ride that they're allowed on. I would never put it. I personally have never and will never put my dog on Spider-Man, E.T., or Transformers.
I had no idea about Spider-Man and Transformers, but E.T. has always been a giant red flag for me.
Right. Another thing, this brings up the creative ways to help. One thing at Animal Kingdom is on Kilimanjaro safaris. The dogs are allowed to ride, but as a little safety thing, they have a second tether. So you have your leash that you have to have in your hand at all times, unless you don't like have your hand function. In that case, service dogs are allowed to be off leash, but the dog has to be tethered into the ride vehicle via their harness or their collar. But that way it kind of ensures the dog, doesn't jump out of the ride. So I think that's super clever is, some dogs don't know, they've never seen a giraffe before. There's things that you can't predict. And so having that, safety thing in there, I think is super smart and super creative while also not compromising the dog being able to task.
Yeah, that's really smart. I didn't know they did that. That's one that I haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty cool and creative way to allow them on there.
Right, I think so too. Yeah, it's in the wheelchair spot. There's like a little leash that's directly hooked into the car. Hi, Russell.
Speaking of dogs,
he's like, I want to be involved. He's so funny.
Do you have a preference? I know that sometimes I've seen that you tend to ride in the handicap vehicle if there's one available, or just a standard vehicle. Do you have a preference with you and your dog specifically? And if so, why?
So sometimes only the accessibility vehicles can fit the dogs. Like, so I was at Epic Universe and we rode Yoshi's Adventure. Love that ride. Now, I don't know if you've seen the interior of those ride vehicles. They're very small, very small. There is not much room for anything. And the restraints are they're almost like RMC restraints. They're very, like, they take up a lot of space.
Okay.
So in that case, the only option is the wheelchair vehicle, and it's an egg. It's not a Yoshi. It's super cute. There's still a Yoshi on it. But I do use that when it's offered. But other times, like if it's accessible for just like wheelchair transfers, at that point, there's no point in me using it. If that makes sense. So if the dog needs to be in the handicap one, then yes. And if there's more space with Russell is 2 times the size of Baymax. He's like 90 pounds. So he needs a little bit more space, but Baymax was able to squeeze himself pretty much in anywhere. So that kind of makes a difference. So I haven't gotten to take Russell on too many rides yet, but yeah, I would prefer the handicap vehicle on that one, the more accessible one.
That makes sense. That makes sense. How do you think that theming and accessibility work to impact the guest experience?
So, I'm a big fan of the term inclusive design. So that is from the ground up, you're designing for everybody. And when you're designing for everyone benefits. Operationally, just it doesn't separate anyone from anybody. Does that make sense? So it makes everyone feel included. One thing that can be hard as a disabled person is kind of having to be separated from the rest. And sometimes there's no workarounds for that when it comes to like things like lines. You can only do so much for that. But when it's inclusive, you get to it's A, smoother for everyone, and B, smoother for disabled guests who just want the same experience as everyone else. And it's not terribly hard to implement. I couldn't give you examples right now because there's so many. But implementing it is not terribly hard. But when you involve inclusive design, it works for everyone. It improves everyone's experience by kind of keeping everyone together. There's less moving parts. It's less operationally. It's even better that way because there's less moving parts, less people that are in different categories, if that makes sense, of who needs what. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you know what? There's something on my brain. So Donkey Kong is a really good example of this, as well as Forbidden Journey. So they have they can manually take a ride vehicle off and have a loading station that's directly next to the like the regular loading station. Now there is a wall there because some people don't like being watched while they're transferring from their chair. It can be a very vulnerable moment for some people. But it's like the same ride station. It's right next to the ride station. They take the ride vehicle directly off the track. They have as much time as they want, so no one is rushed. So it, with some rides, if you're stopping the walkway, everyone stops. And so at that point, you're getting less people through. You're, stopping the ride for everyone. But the separate ride stations, and this Universal has a few of these. They're really, really cool. When I was at Epic, we saw it, and then we were like, "Can we look at it?" It was super cool because the system is super neat. It's its own little area that just connects directly to the track, and then you can have as much time as you want, and it doesn't stop anyone. Same with Forbidden Journey. Forbidden Journey has the same thing. The crate's right there. It's awesome. Super, super cool design.
I love that.
Yeah, it is an awesome design. I liked there was a point when I was on crutches and I had to use the Forbidden Journey one, and I remember thinking it was awesome. Like
it's so cool. Getting there too. When I didn't have an escort, they print out the directions on how to get there on receipt paper. Because it's a little hard to get to because you have to take 2 elevators, but it's nice because you get to be in the air conditioning, and it kind of takes you around. It's really nice. It's a break.
I felt like I was somewhere like I was gonna get in trouble and like yelled at. You're like in this private hallway.
It's very liminal space-esque, but you're in the air conditioning a little bit more, and also you've got a cool view because then you can see the Kuka arms. Unless you're not into that, then you just don't look at it.
Yeah, you also, for all of our regular theme park nerds listening, it also is probably like, especially for Forbidden Journey, I don't know what it's like for Donkey Kong or any of the others, but there's a specific spot in the lineup for that vehicle that ends up being always empty, and you have to wait for the next cycle, but it throws you into the spot in between the other vehicles with like the most intensity I've ever felt on a ride like that.
It's super fun.
It is super intense. It's like 0 to 100 in no time.
You're like, all right, you're getting in. Go back in there. Because you got to squeeze them in.
Yeah, it's literally like you have a 10, if you're getting onto a major highway and you have like a 10-yard entrance onto the highway and you're just like pedal to the metal and just gun it. It's the most intense start to that ride ever. I love it.
And it's super fun because it's a Kuga arm and you don't really get that experience on any other thing. It's very unique. It's super fun.
It's a very insane experience. It's very cool.
Big fan of that. Shout out to Forbidden Journey. Huge fan of that ride.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
And then before we get into the listener question, is there questions? What do you want our listeners to know about service animals in theme parks?
Oh, okay. My first one is don't stop sticking your fingers in the crates, please. With peace and love. Stop putting your phalanges, your little appendages. Put your little fingers away. Keep them out. Now, I have run into this a couple times where kids just get bored, and I understand. I love kids. I'm a sucker for kids. I understand that you turn your head, and they're 20 miles away. I get it. However, kids are usually the main offender of this, but they'll just be sticking their fingers in, and I'm like, oh, because there's so many dogs that do not like that, don't like it. Now, service dogs are not allowed to be aggressive. A dog correcting another dog for being rude, fine, it happens. But it happens. And I wouldn't blame them. If somebody's trying to get into the crate, I wouldn't be mad if the dog got a little grumpy at them. Stop sticking your fingers in there. It's not a good idea. It's not. It's a safety problem. And that's another thing I think parks could consider. They often have crates right up next to queues. I know of a dog that was at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And I believe I actually met the handler, if it's who I think it is. They were on Finnegan's Flyer, and there was a dog somebody, I don't know why the person didn't stop, but they were just kicking the crate over and over again, like violently kicking the crate. The dog had to be washed later because they had never heard that dog make the sounds that it did, because it was just being kicked in the crate and it was terrified. It was absolutely terrified. And I believe the staff did nothing wrong in this case. They tried, but you can't, physically stop somebody from doing anything. And they're not allowed to take the dogs out of a crate because it's a liability problem. They're not allowed to touch them. And yeah, the dog had to get washed for that. Leave the dogs alone in the crates, and I think parks could do a little bit better with the location of the crates. Disney has a really good job about that, and so does Universal. Usually the crates are out of the way, except for sometimes Universal has them in the family rooms, but they have signs on them. They're like, please don't touch the dog. But places like Busch Gardens, kind of like the wild, wild west out there. Jen, I'm sure you've seen some of the locations for the crates there.
Yeah.
So like Manta is a really good one. It's just out there. And for Bolton's Crate 2, it's right by the entrance.
Yeah, it's by like the exit, isn't it? So it's like anyone leaving the ride.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's right there.
And that one there's not even a barrier. It's not even its own section.
Nope.
It's literally on the walkway.
Section. It is on the walkway. Yeah, so it's one of those things but yeah, keep your fingers, keep your toes, keep your appendages out of the crates, and don't feed them either. Don't feed them. I've had a kid throw popcorn at Russell. I've also had people straight up just try to feed him, and they were trying to be nice. They thought it was funny, but don't feed him. Especially like Baymax's tummy was very, very sensitive. Also, it's just rude. Don't distract the dog. Leave him alone. The dog's there as medical equipment. As heartless and cold as that sounds, that's what they're there for. Just don't distract them from that. That's all I can really think of. Keep your fingers and toes to yourself and don't feed them. Leave them alone. Oh, you know what? Another thing is, so this is a little bit niche, but it's important, especially when you're going to theme parks. A lot of service dog handlers, especially those who frequent theme parks, love fun gear. Like themed gear. I've seen a mobility harness with a toothless tail on it. That was part of the leather on the harness. Super duper fun. Some dogs have Mickey ears on. Super cute. Everyone loves it. Just ask before you take a picture of the dog. Don't get a picture of the person and stuffing their face with food and, the subject is the dog. However, nobody wants just random pictures of them. You might even get the dog I've posed Baymax before, for people. Just ask. The gear is still gear. The dog is still working. Leave him alone. Admire from afar, ask for a picture, but it's not an invite.
Yeah, taking pictures used to be my biggest pet peeve. And when people would just ask, I almost always would let them.
Yeah, I'm like, I can pose my dog for you. Just don't get a photo of me.
Yeah.
It's just ask. Some people will say no, obviously, and that's totally fine. But yeah, no. Fun gear is super duper fun. I don't have much. I made a Jolly Rancher Remix Velcro thing that I stuck on Baymax's vest one time because I love Jolly Rancher Remix. So I made him a little thing. I don't actually have it. I was going to reach over and grab it, but I don't have it with me. I made panels that stuck to it. So yeah, fun gear, super fun. Some dogs have their dogs in much more extravagant outfits than I probably would put my dog in. But I love seeing them. I couldn't handle the attention, but some people don't mind. But yeah, so even if they have fun gear on, they're still working. But you can always ask to take a picture of them. It's better to ask than just take a photo randomly.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like a lot of it is just kind of finding that balance and educating families and having parents educate their kids on etiquette for service animals.
Oh, for sure.
Because, for a 3-year-old, they might just be like, ooh, puppy, and want to go pet it. Not understanding at all. And so I think there's a lot that can be done creatively to kind of educate kids on how best to interact with service animals and their handlers.
For sure. That could be anything from the employees. I had an employee one time. His name is Eddie. Shout out to Eddie at Verbolten. That made kids. Sorry, Russell just jumped off the bed and pulled out my power cord. I had it plugged in all the way across the other part of the room because my extension cord is no longer there because I'm moving out. But he made them. It was so funny. He made them apologize to me because they kept harassing Baymax at the time, and then they let me ride again. Because they felt bad. But there is a point where I think security employees should intervene a little bit more. There is a video out there of a woman in her wheelchair with her service dog, and parents do this all the time. Parents love using dogs as entertainment when their kids get, that 3 p.m. hour when kids just get tired and grumpy. It's hot. I get it. I get it. It's like peak tantrum time. It is like family fall apart time. It happens to all of us. However, a lot of people will see a service dog and they'll put their baby right in front of it all the time. Happens all the time. I don't know if you've experienced this, Jen, or not, but they'll be like, look at the doggy. Look, doggy go woof, woof, woof. And now I'm a sucker for kids, so I'm not like, I'm also really bad at setting boundaries, so I have a hard time saying no. So sometimes I'll just try to ignore it, but that's definitely one of those things. Like, there's a point where it's like, hey, there's another attraction, especially like at a place that has other animals. Go see the penguins. If you're at SeaWorld, there's a dog. You can see this walking down the street. Go get your money's worth. So I think there is a point where employees should step in, especially just like any other sort of argument. Lots of interesting service dog incidents between, thanks Russell, have happened because it's really tense, and again, people get grumpy. Another thing is statistically, one of the reasons why this kind of thing is so important is it's actually statistically more likely for people to fake a service dog on vacation and be at theme parks. Theme parks are going to be one of the places you see these the most. Because get your head out of that. He's smelling something. He's like, what is that? I think he's getting bored. But they're statistically more likely to be fake service animals there because they're traveling. There's like a lot of small details of why that is. But the long story short, it's because people are traveling. And so not only from a safety standpoint with kids and adults just learning how to, hi Russell, interact with them, it's a safety problem for them too. Because again, you don't know if that dog's trained or not. Again, these dogs are not supposed to be there, but sometimes they slip in. And if your dog goes up and, if your kid goes and grabs their face, you could get bit. It's just, stop. He's trying to open his own toy box. He does it all the time. He gets bored and he takes out, because it's an IKEA recycling bin that just has a flap that opens. So he pushes it open and grabs whatever he wants out of it. Can I help you? Can I help you?
He just wants to be part of the podcast.
He does. He says, I won't be involved. I have things to say. He's like, actually, do feed me. Russell is a food fiend. Baymax was very stoic and very like regal. Didn't care about a whole lot. Russell is a lab Rottweiler mix, and he has no brain, I don't think. And he only cares about food and people paying attention to him, which is great, service dog wise, temperament wise. Because of all the crazy things that he has to deal with. He's fantastic. He doesn't care about anything. But food is definitely a thing for him. So now, what? I don't know if you heard him whine. I'm so sorry.
Thought it was Alex.
Yeah, Alex, shut up over there. What was I gonna say? But yeah, no, it's a safety thing for everyone. Just people need to be better, not even just in theme parks, but theme parks especially, because that risk is higher. Just don't touch dogs that you don't know. Honestly, just don't touch dogs you don't know, especially their butt. I've had people grab Russell's tail. I'm like, y'all are so lucky that my dog is trained and has a good temperament, because again, I wouldn't be mad at a dog that may have grumbled at the kid. If you grab their tail and pull on it, that dog has every right to say, hey, I didn't like that. No biting, no aggression. However, don't grab tails and tell your kids not to grab tails, or any part of a dog for that matter that you don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the few times that Ahsoka, like, Ahsoka is really good at, like, one quick warning, like, snap, and she won't get close, but she will let you know. She'll give, like, a quick, like, bark snap, like, do not do that. And I remember at Universal, and someone grabbed her butt. And she was like, she turned so quick, and she was like, absolutely not.
I don't blame her.
And I was like, the guy got mad, and I was like, why would you touch
would
her
you
butt? Like,
grab
why
her-
would you touch the dog's butt? Why would you do that? Go away. It's like, you
Right.
can leave. Bye.
For real. It's, yeah. Just, like, Russell. People need to be better behaved around dogs in general.
Yeah, I
think
was
there's
like,
a-
that was on you. I'm not gonna apologize.
Yeah, I don't think she did anything wrong in that case.
Yeah, the only other time she snapped at a park is that time that Baymax sniffed her butt.
Yeah, so for context, Jen and I were at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and we were going to do the little hideaway speakeasy thing, and so we were waiting around, and they were so good. They were so good together, except for Baymax every once in a while. So for context, both of my dogs are trained in guide work. And so with handling a guide dog versus a normal service dog, you kind of let their leash loose a little bit. And so they're allowed to make little tiny decisions every once in a while that you could correct. They have a little bit more leniency when it comes to where their head is. He would kind of reach over and take a few sniffs for Ahsoka. And eventually, but they were great. They were great the whole time. Other than a sniff or two, they were working side by side. They were great. And then we were like, yeah, you know what? It's most of the way through the day. They were so good together. And then we let them say hi. And Baymax is so rude. Went straight for her hind end. And Ahsoka was like, you're not even going to like say hi to my face first? And I don't blame her for that. Baymax is so rude. I'm sorry. Did you hear that?
Never heard that one.
My goodness.
Well, Russell likes to talk. He goes raw, raw, raw. He doesn't howl, but he talks.
Well, it's a Roddy.
Yeah, I know. I'm not used to it. It's so funny. He doesn't have the terrier yap that Baymax did.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was so funny.
Yeah,
so
it's like one of my
no, sir. I don't blame him. I don't blame
all
her.
day they were perfect, and then that was like the moment we released them.
He deserved it. He deserved it. He went straight to the butt. What was I gonna say? Okay. Excellent. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Another topic I can bring up if it's okay. Another thing with theme parks that's very prevalent is haunts. This is a really hard topic to cover with service dogs. And Jen, I know you have a story of one of the actors. So that's a perfect example of what needs to be done better. Do you want to go ahead and tell the story of what happened with you and Ahsoka before I continue?
Oh yeah, I absolutely can.
Please do.
So I want to preface this with, I was not bringing my service dog to a haunt, but the setup at this park didn't have any options to attend hold on.
Goodness.
Russell's tilting his head.
For what it's worth, this is like the only time I'm going to leave all of the dog noises in because it's so applicable to the conversation at hand. None of it's going to get edited
These
out.
dogs noises?
Yeah.
Russell, there's no one there. He's looking around.
It's an episode about
Get your hackles
mostly
down.
about service dogs. What can we say?
Ahsoka! I miss her. Don't rile him up. Russell! He's right here. He's so stupid. No, haunts can be a really hard thing to navigate, only because of the nature of them. And by haunts, I mean like the park event in general, not just the houses. I'm talking scare zones, everything.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for just that person.
1,000%.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of advise a lot of handlers not to bring their dog to a lot of places. Now, I'm a little hypocritical of that because both of my dogs have been absolutely fantastic. They both like sliders. Russell actually worked with me at Cedar Point in a scare zone for about a month and a half. And he loved it because I was a fog tech. Now, he wasn't there for the whole shift. We had, times where we would sit backstage because I was a fog technician. And there are dogs that we saw there that were absolutely not prepared to be there. They could have absolutely been legitimate service dogs. Absolutely. However, haunts are an entirely different thing because there's they don't have context. just like with fireworks, the dogs don't have context for it. They think the world's ending, and who is this person sliding around on the ground and it's sparking? Like, what? I would be terrified.
Yeah.
I'd be terrified. And I don't blame any dog for being scared of that. I think, though, this is the part where the handler is a lot more responsible than the park is, to make sure that their dog is okay to be in these environments. Now, when it comes to a situation like Jen's, which I'll stop yapping in a second so you can tell the story. But there is a thing where, again, employee training needs to be applied a little bit more here. And it's really unfortunate because those things can scar dogs. So go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
Yeah, so sorry, my dogs got very excited and needed to pause. But I do like to preface this with the fact that the park that I was at had a very, very, very small haunt event. There were like 3 or 4 houses and 3 scare zones. I mapped out everything. The scare zones could all be avoided. So hence the only reason my dog was with me, except for the entrance. I put a scare zone directly at the entrance of the park with no way around it. So I had a game plan. Rules to not interact with service dogs should always be applied. That's at least my thought.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a scare actor or not. So my game plan was to pick up my dog, carry her very visibly through the scare zone so no one would approach me. No one would. Ahsoka has a lot to say right now.
She says, I'm in this one. Let me tell it. Let me tell.
So it was me, 2 other people. They were prepared to tell people about the dog. If they didn't see the dog, I had the dog held very visibly to my side where the scare actors could see her very visibly. My intention was that they would ignore her. She had been around chainsaws. She had had exposure to all of the noises. So I wasn't concerned about the noises. So my intention was that they would ignore her. Instead, I had a scare actor follow us. And then even after being told that there was a service dog and to back off, he continued to follow us to the point that I had to turn around. And then he chased me with a chainsaw with a service dog in my hand. Like, extremely close to me.
Yeah, which is completely inappropriate behavior. And I think that if I remember correctly, the normal onboarding for a lot of just normal staff has stuff about service animals. But I think the scare actors one, I've heard across the board, do not have much training on it.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, and then I remember when I told a supervisor and was told that I should have purchased a boo necklace when this was at the entrance of the park. There wasn't even access to a store.
Right.
But I will say that after the fact, once the park was made aware of the situation, I talked to their head of like safety.
Right.
And had a conversation with them, and they seemed to take it really seriously. So that part was good. No hate to the park at all at that point. But yeah, that was an experience. Yeah, training for the employees would have been extremely helpful because me and my dog, I shouldn't have had to purchase a boo necklace. I shouldn't have anything. We should not have been interacted with. She shouldn't have been distracted in any way.
Right. It should just be a given, just don't leave the dog alone, leave any dog alone kind of thing.
Exactly.
I feel so bad about that story because I have something opposite when I was at Halloween Horror Nights, and I had a light up collar and stuff on him, and because I was going specifically for Horror Nights, and Baymax is all good and fine, completely fine, the scare zones, but there was a this is not even just a service dog specific issue. This is also a costuming department problem. The actor couldn't see very well out of the mask and completely missed that Baymax was there because it was in the lower field of his vision, and just swooped in with that chainsaw, and Baymax kind of jumped out of his skin a little bit, which again, I don't blame him. I'd be scared too. He didn't do anything. He just kind of jumped out of the way and then was nervous in that scare zone, which again, I don't blame him. But they felt so bad that they escorted me through the rest and the employee. So scare actors aren't allowed to interact or like say anything like to guests that aren't like, you know, part of their acting. They're not allowed to. And so the poor guy went to his supervisor and was like, "Please tell her I am so sorry." And he wanted to make sure that Baymax was okay because he just absolutely did not see him until my friend yelled something, and by that time it was done. So that was one of those really, and then they escorted me out, and so that's like the better situation. Now sometimes you know, that stuff happens, and that's one of those things where I warn other handlers about bringing their dog to haunts. Now another thing is with not just like the scare zones, the actual houses. Those can be legally are a hard thing to navigate because they're walkthroughs and you're not allowed to judge on whether or not a dog can do something based on a what if my dog, you know, what if the dog gets scared and bites someone? It's not allowed. You can't do it. You're not allowed to be like to base it on what if. However, you can offer things like crates, which could be, you know, the policy modification, and still allow them to go through. Or some parks, shoot, I forgot who it was. It might have been, it was either Universal or Busch that they would have a staff member go in with a sign and tell the actors that a dog was coming through, and they would experience all of the effects pretty much and have the actors from a distance, and so the dog was able to go through with the handler. But you know, they weren't really purposely scaring the dog, because you can't see in those mazes most of the time, so they were just warned that there would be a dog and make sure that they don't, you know, freak out the dog. But that will be one thing that I will never do with my dogs. I'll never take them into a haunt thing. I just don't think it's very kind. Scare zones are different, but in a closed space like that, too many risks. I don't care how bomb-proof my dogs are. I'm not taking them through a haunt. It's not going to happen. Yeah. But there are people that do want to take the dogs in, and that if there's, you know, a combination for that, that's totally up to them. Yeah, haunts are a little bit of a gray zone. Because dogs get terrified in those. There's a story of a dog at Cedar Point that managed to get their way in there. I don't know exactly what happened on the staff side, but the dog went in, and the dog got so scared it threw up in the haunt maze, which is just one of those things where it's like you can't exclude things. You can't exclude them based on just having the dog and or what if. But it's one of those things where I'm like, personally, I don't think it's very kind to the dog. So I think haunts are one of the number one places that should have crates out of anywhere. If that makes sense. Sorry. Haunts are a very interesting little crossroads that I think should be.
Yeah, definitely. They're a tough environment.
That's for sure. Yeah, I've seen a lot of dogs that were at Cedar Point that just weren't ready. And again, they could have been absolutely fantastic service dogs normally, but when they're in that environment, you know, at that point, it's one of those things where the accommodation could be somebody goes with a staff member and they walk through with them. That could be an absolute, like a complete thing. So that way you have people around you, but the dog itself is not getting scared. That could be an absolutely reasonable accommodation, especially because most haunt things have security and staff that aren't actors in there anyway. And we've escorted through people all the time. I've done a few escorts of people through scare mazes that were just terrified and wanted to get out. So, you know, absolutely reasonable accommodation.
Yeah.
For haunts. Don't force your dog through, period. End of story. It's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. It's a tough environment for humans.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Incredibly.
I don't blame any dog for not wanting to be there. I got very lucky with both of my dogs, but I also got pleased with dogs that knowingly were able to do that kind of thing because that's where I work a lot of the time. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, no, not every dog likes it. I don't blame them.
Yeah, totally. All right, I think that it's time for us to get into some listener questionings.
Questionings.
I don't know what I'm saying. All right. To start, What design or policy features are the most helpful for supporting service animals?
Crates. No question. Crates are great. Circling back to the beginning, everyone likes to ride with the people they're with. I actually, let me pull up the statistics here real quick because I have a lot of research into a lot of the stuff that I talk about, where both observed by ride operators and self-reports of handlers, preferring with crates, or the importance of riding with their party. 88% rate between, on a 5-point scale, between 4 and 5%. They report how important it is for them to be able to ride with their party. And from a ride operator observational report was 96%. Observing how important it was to somebody to be able to ride with them. And crates is pretty much the easiest way to do that. And it's not expensive. The only thing that could probably be a little bit more expensive is needing to clean the crates, which does take, it takes labor. It takes, somebody's staff you're paying hourly. But I think it's easier than rider swap anyway, at least in my opinion. But you also get to ride with the party you want to, so you're not swapping. So crates. The other thing was the grassy areas. Again, let them pee on the bush. As long as there's no like cool lighting fixture or it's nothing, let them pee on the bush. It's that way you don't have to walk all the way to the front of the park. Just let them pee on the bush, man.
Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite things about the Disney parks, because
Yep.
if you look into Disney's official policy, the policy is that they provide service dog relief areas,
Mm-hmm.
but anywhere out of the walkway, as
Yeah.
long as you clean up after the dog, is accessible for the dog.
Right.
And I think that's the best policy ever.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Because suddenly your dog gets sick, or it's like, oh shoot, I've been on 3 rides and I forgot to let my dog pee. As horrible as that sounds,
Yeah.
just let him go. Let him go. Let him pee on the bush. That's all I have to say. Just let him pee on the bush, man.
Yeah.
It's crates and potty spots. That's the
Yeah.
best we can think of.
And I feel like there's so many ways that crates and potty spots can be integrated into themed areas.
Yes.
It makes it a little more fun for the dog too, I think.
100%. So one of the things that I've worked on for my classes is having crates that look like the scenery around them. I have literally designed a crate that looked like a tree, and you opened the tree up and there's a crate in there. The dog could sit in the tree. And that's part of the inclusive design part, where it's like, it's designed for everyone, because those crates, I'm sorry, if they're like the airport crates normally, they're not pretty. And they kind of stick out like a sore thumb, because they're just black and tan and wire. So, which is fine. But it also, I think it would make me as a handler really appreciate that it's there, but also it blends in an inclusive way to the set around it. It's less, it doesn't take you out of it. One example I can think of for this was one of the main things that inspired me about this was at Universal Studios Hollywood, at their what is the Flight of the Hippogriff? Is that correct? The Hippogriff ride, the little roller coaster. They actually have a themed crate there, and it is wood that is it's the same wood as the surrounding set pieces, and the little latch works the same way, but it's all wood and it functions the same exact way. But the crate blends in with the scenery around it, and it's absolutely beautiful. So that kind of inspired me. But crates, it's so easy. You don't even have to make the actual crate itself. You can make a skin that goes around it, and by skin I mean plywood and foam carving, and then put epoxy or sealer on it. At that point, you can just even ask a maintenance person to paint it, because usually most parks have maintenance painters, so it's not that expensive, and that it makes it less of an eyesore. although I am grateful for crates, period, because they're not legally required. Specifically, I don't remember which exact section it's in, but in the ADA FAQ, there's specifically a section that says that places don't have to have a space for your dog or supervise them at all. So all of these are kind of luxuries, even though it's, you know, doubling back on everything I've said. It's kind of something that fundamentally alters the experience if you don't get to ride. But they are legally sort of luxuries. But they're not hard to implement, so I wish more parks did do that. But yeah, there's plenty of ways that you can make crates that don't look like sore thumbs. You know, in a whimsical forest, put a tree in there, put a little cabin in there.
I think it would help prevent like young kids from poking their, putting their phalanges into the places that they shouldn't be if they barely even recognize that it's there. It's just another part of the theming.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, yeah, absolutely. That's a point I didn't think about. But yeah, no, absolutely. That could be a solution for sure. Like I've done a couple crates. I've done one for a ride that I was working on that was a Kuga Arm ride that was based around a, long story short, it was a zoo. Think of a zoo that gone bad. And so you have a crate that looks like it was one of the animal crates that's just in the queue or off to the side of the queue where it's not accessible to other guests. But, it looks like it belongs there, just like everything else does. You can do, one of the ones I worked on was for a toy-based ride, and they're, made of giant blocks, kind of thing. It just looks like it's another toy that's there. But it doesn't give anyone access to the dog, and it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. I know I keep using that term over and over again, but I don't know what other word to use for it.
It's all immersive.
Yes. For sure.
Here's my fancy word of the day. So I know we're kind of coming up on your deadline of when you need to be done with us. But I know one more question.
Sure.
We had a few more questions that were kind of answered throughout, but one last one. What's been your favorite interaction with a guest with a service dog that we're able to get on a ride together?
Oh, man. Okay. Actually, I have a really good story for this one. So a few years ago, I was on a trip with Baymax's program, and we went to Disney World or Disneyland. I'm sorry. Oh, my sound like a fake Thuzy right now. The one in California, Disneyland. And Pirates of the Caribbean allows service dogs on it. However, there is a drop on it, and so I was going to elect to not have Baymax ride with me. However, because we had a issue with one of my friends that had one of the program dogs, she was going to transfer from her wheelchair, and they told her she couldn't. And it was like, that's absolutely not true. You can transfer from your wheelchair to the ride vehicle. But the cast members felt so bad that they gave us our own boat. So it was a pirate boat full of like 5 or 6 program dogs riding Pirates of the Caribbean. That was pretty fun. That's a personal one, though. I'm trying to think of one that's not. I always enjoy the videos of people and their dogs getting to see their favorite characters. I recently had an interaction with Igor during previews. Big fan of Igor. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He said that Russell was a werewolf and laterly laid on the floor with him. I think that's the best one for that. Yeah, I think that's the best one that I can think of, at least for now. So, yeah. Sorry if I can't. Those are the best stories I've got.
I can't imagine just like a boat full of dogs on Pirates of the Caribbean.
I wish I had a picture, but it's so dark.
Right.
That is like, yeah, no, super fun. The dogs are fine. Baymax wasn't a huge fan, but he went on. I couldn't pass the opportunity up. I knew he would be fine on it, and he wasn't going to go anywhere. I just knew that he probably wouldn't love it. But he was fine. He was happy. He liked to look at all the set pieces. He thought it was cool. He was smelling the bromine just like the rest of us. feeling that kind of stuff. Bromine water. So he stuck his little head out and was going, sniffing the air.
Don't we all?
For real. He's just like, he's one of us, man. But yeah, no, that's the best interaction I think I've ever had with that kind of thing. Still, even years later, best story.
Sounds precious.
It was
Have
great.
your dogs been on Living with the Land?
No, I actually haven't been. I hadn't been to Disney since I was like 10, except for when Alex, my fiance, actually surprised me when we were the day before IAPA started. And because I hadn't been to Disney and I really want to ride Dinosaur again. And so last minute he took me to Disney. And so I haven't been since I've been a service dog handler. I have not been. But Russell rode Navi River Journey, and he's ridden Boo Blasters. That's pretty much it. He doesn't fit very well in Boo Blasters, but he likes it. He's like, he can't see the colors, but he can see that they're bright and there's a lot happening. Oh no, and Yoshi. He rode Yoshi too. He thought Yoshi was really funny. Baymax rode Cat in the Hat.
Oh my gosh, the spinning on that.
He wasn't a huge fan. I forgot that it spun. And he had to, lay completely flat. So, because that's one of the policies Universal has. Sometimes they enforce it and sometimes they don't, where the dog has to be completely laying down. So yeah, super fun.
That with my dog.
So I think it's normally when they're bigger. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a center of gravity thing. There's not really any formal rules.
I also had her handle. I used to hold her handle and everything, just in case.
Right. No, makes perfect sense. That's one of the reasons I like the tethers too, is I don't have to think and worry about my dog, my dog's safety, which both is on the handler and the park. But,
it's my whole thing is like, no matter how incredible your dog is trained, no matter how much you trust your dog, there's still a little bit of like,
they don't have context.
Yeah, like there's still a little bit of like external factors here.
For sure. Absolutely.
So I would rather always have my hand on my dog.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if the ride vehicle isn't enclosed, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, Living with the Land, hands down, I think that Ahsoka would sell me for Living with the Land.
I have heard so many people say something similar. They're like, everyone's dog's favorite ride is either Small World or Living with the Land.
Yeah. The first time she got on it, like I don't even know if she would have been capable of tasking because her nose was going 1,000 miles a minute, smelling everything in the greenhouse. There were like multiple times where I was just like, can I have your eyes? Like after the first time she would pay attention a little more, but it would just be like every 30 seconds she'd check in like, you good? All right. Yeah. I'm enjoying.
Usually the first 2-3 rides, I don't expect my dog to really care that much.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So it's a hard environment to tack in. So it's a really hard environment to task in. So I don't blame any dogs for not completely being all there.
Yeah. But it's like, I will never forget the amount.
I'll try to go on as soon as I can because I want to get back to Disney. I've been to Epic and I haven't been to Disney in 10 years. It's like crazy.
Yeah, we need Living with the Land dog updates.
I will do that and I will have to post about it eventually. Once I get there. I have to graduate and move out. 2 days. So close.
Caught you at a good time.
Huh?
So we caught you at a good time.
Yeah. Lots of stuff going on, but this is a good break. I like yapping about this stuff, so it works. It works.
Well, podcast is a good place to yap.
Big fan of yapping. Big fan of podcasts. Perfect place. Sorry if you can hear the sirens. There's always something going on in Savannah. There's always some sort of siren happening outside my window. And Russell is staring out the window. He's a watcher. He sits there with his chin and just puts his head on the windowsill and just stares. He doesn't do anything. He just watches for hours. He'll sit there. He'll be happy. Sleeping and watching. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Your big old rock head. Jen, did you ever meet Russell? You met him at Cedar Point, right?
No, No, Cedar Point you still had Baymax.
I did, yeah. He retired a little bit between that. He was just getting sound sensitive and he was tired, so we knew it was coming.
Yeah, I remember you still had Baymax because I have the picture
Oh
when
yeah, that
he
Baymax
literally just
hates you.
released himself because you wouldn't let him say hi to me.
He's so funny. Baymax was giving you the like snubbing you too, and when I let him say hi, I was like, Baymax, you're being so rude.
Yeah, we were.
Russell doesn't, or not Russell. Baymax like doesn't care about anybody.
That's my dog.
I know. I was like, Baymax, go say hi. It's like a someone trying to get their kid to say hi to their like grandparent. And you're like, go give her a hug, and they're like, I don't want to. I'm like, go say hi to Jen.
No, that time we were like standing in front of Gemini,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't want to say hi, or at least he didn't want to, and he was in a heel and he was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden he just like removed himself from his heel and just
I remember
put
that.
himself against me.
I think he remembered who you were and then was like, oh, okay. So
and then he was
funny.
like, I'm done now.
He's so funny.
I
Man,
love
miss
that
working
little
dog.
old man in a dog suit.
The way I describe him to people who haven't met him is he's like an old man that like got reincarnated but like against his will. Like he didn't want to be back. He like was back and was like, dang. And as a dog, and so that's just kind of permanent. Like he's happy. He was happy working. But he's
just like a grumpy old man.
He does. He looks like a grumpy old man with the wrinkles, and it doesn't help that his nose kind of goes like slopes. So it's just like he's sad all the time. People loved commenting on that. Even at parks, I've had people say that like they're like, why he shouldn't be working. He looks like he hates it, and I'm like, hmm. Yep.
All right. I think this brings us to the end of our episode.
I think so.
Always the famous Jen line.
Yeah. I'm always like, I think that wraps us up, guys.
Well, Katelyn, thank you so much for joining us and informing us more about kind of what it is that you do. And
of course,
all
I love
that.
it. I'm yapping about it. Always.
Well, hopefully our listeners have learned something today. I know I've learned a lot for sure.
Good.
It's not something that I've really been privy to at parks, so it's been very interesting for me to hear about.
It's a super niche topic. I don't, expect anyone to like be super versed in it.
Except Jen, the perfect co-host for this.
Yes.
I do, however, even though we are missing a co-host right now, I do feel like we have to come up with a very quick trivia question for next week's episode.
Oh, I have nothing unless you have something.
Katelyn, do you have any accessibility themed trivia questions?
Oh man. I actually don't know. Hang on, give me a second.
We're trying to channel our inner Bryant and it is not working.
I guess okay. The trivia question would be what parks do offer crates and which ones don't.
Oh, that was kind of on my mind too.
Okay, perfect.
You'll have to give us answers separately because I know of about one park offhand.
I'll tell you when we're not recording. I'll tell you.
Yeah. All right, so the trivia question of the week. What park chains offer crates for service animals? I believe they were mentioned in this episode.
Yes. Have you been listening?
US based, so they do have to be US based. But what US based chains offer crates for the service animals? All right. Now we're at the end of the episode.
Now we're at the end.
Yay, trivia!
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. Thank you for spending an hour and a half with us.
Yeah, thanks for yapping.
I love it.
We appreciate you yapping.
I appreciate having somewhere to yap. Bye, Russell. Russell
we
also
are,
says bye.
We are a yap inclusive podcast. So look at that inclusive design right there. Oh, so sweet.
Russell also says bye, and Russell also says, no, don't listen to Katelyn and feed me popcorn. Don't listen to any of that.
Well, remember to always #think inverted, #whatever. I'm just always going to say #whatever now. I'll blame Bryant for that since he's not here to say anything against it. And we will see you all next time.